Welcome to the Light Her Project podcast, Real Women.
Real talk.
I'm Rachel Strella.
And I'm Vixen Divine.
Hello. So, we're recording on Sunday again. And this time because 4th of July holiday is coming up. So, it's Sunday. We're starting the week. So, Vixen, how has your past week been?
Well, I tell you what, this is something I haven't done all season. So I am wearing linen.
Hmm.
Linen, and my thing is with this is like, I know it's not wrinkled, sort of, but my brain tells me that I want to get the wrinkles out.
Ah.
I know how linen is like this weird. So I got a couple of these because I love the color. Like I got this in lavender and in this yellow. And but my brain is really working with the linen material. That it feels good because it's summer, but it makes me want to just iron it.
I understand. As somebody who's very particular about certain things, like a steamer could be your best friend, but you could end up steaming it all day. If I mean,
Yeah,
so
so
you're
that's what I
feeling
think.
sunny. It sounds like you're
Yes,
feeling sunny.
yes.
All right.
How about you?
I I feel pretty good. I mean, it's the last day of June. I can't even believe that. But
I know.
on the sad note, my kitty is still missing. It's been 3 weeks, and I wrote a tribute to him today. Um, but on a positive note, as a business owner, my business is just suddenly really booming right now, and it's one of those things as an entrepreneur, where you're really happy that it's happening. You're also like, why all at once? Why? So you got to take it though. You got to strike when the iron is hot. So we're doing it. But I'm going on vacation at the end of the week, so really hoping I can get all this stuff wrapped up before I go. That's the other thing about being a business owner. Like you never really fully get time off.
Right, right, right. That's
All
true.
right. Well, let's talk about something that's a little different today. Today's topic, we're actually talking about the tipping culture. And is it fair or is it forced? So, before we go into why we decided on this topic, I thought we'd have a little fun. So, rather than our normal quiz, I'm going to
Okay.
ask Vixen a couple things, and I'd like the audience to think about their answers as well. So, can you guess the average tip percentage in the United States?
The standard is 20%, but I'm going to say that the average is probably 15.
Hmm. Okay, and I'm with you there. It's actually 18%, so we're right in the middle.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, which state do you think tips the best, tips the highest amount?
What state tips the best? I would think somewhere like New York because they have the high
Hmm.
rollers,
Yeah.
and they not everyone, but they do. They're famous for being Manhattan, high roller stuff. So I'm gonna say New York.
I would think that too. Well, you're not too far off. It's actually California.
See, okay, all right, higher rollers there.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I mean. Everything is already overpriced, so why not make it the tip too? So there you go. All right. So which state do you think tips the worst?
ooh, okay. Tips the worst. I would go with somewhere like Alabama.
Alabama. You're actually not too far off, location wise. I'm actually surprised about this one. It's Illinois.
Illinois,
Chicago's there. I'm thinking
right?
another big city. So, and the difference are vast. So, California's average tip percentage is almost 23%, and Illinois is 14%. So,
I would not have picked. I wouldn't have picked Illinois.
I would
Nope.
pick something like Alabama or Louisiana,
Yeah,
something
I'm
like that.
thinking.
Nebraska, I don't know. Just for fun. Hey, We know.
Tennessee was my next one.
All right, let's talk about this topic. Okay, so Vixen had mentioned to me before the last podcast, that she'd like to discuss this. So, you want to tell us what led us to this discussion?
Well, what something happened that I was, made me think. It's always an experience, when something
Mm-hmm.
happens. Um, so I'm in an ice cream shop, and in an ice cream shop, and I think this is pretty much across the board. You get paid whatever a certain wage. You're not like a waitress where
Right.
you are, kind of paid a little bit and then the customer kind of pays you the rest. So they're paid a regular wage, and I go in and I get pints, which are already scooped out. They're in a pint, like they're in a freezer. Um, and so I forget what the bill was. Whatever the bill was, I got 2 pints, and so literally, I walked in. They pulled 2 pints from the freezer, and they rang me up, which is what I wanted, And she told me, she goes, "Okay, I'm gonna give you this." She had like a little like iPad type thing,
Yeah.
like a little tiny register. She says it's gonna
Yeah.
ask you 2 questions, and then you can turn it back around.
For
So
ice
that's the
cream.
way she put it. That is the way she put it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I'm just like, because I'm paying with, I think it's paying. I don't know if I was paying with a card or something like that, But I think I was paying with a card. But so I tap it, and that's when she says it's going to ask me 2 questions. So she turns it around, and it asks me for a tip. I'm like, tip for what? And then the second question was, how did I want my receipt to be given?
That's
And
interesting.
which I had it text to me, which is fine. But that was the second question. But I'm just like, if you're getting paid already to scoop the ice cream, I'm in an ice cream shop, to scoop the ice cream, put it in the cone. There's no special request here. Like I didn't even get the scoop, but that is what you're paid for, like the scoop.
Mm-hmm.
What in the world? What am I tipping you for? Like, why would you
No.
even ask me that question in an ice cream shop? That had there's no sprinkles here. Like there's nothing. They don't even have sprinkles. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Mm-hmm.
what?
Well, it kind of brought me back to a memory hearing that story. When I was just got out of high school, I worked at like a concession stand at a state park, and like they had a pool there, and they had people that would come down and boat and whatever. And so like I was working this food concession stand, and we had hamburgers, hot dogs, all of that, but we also had ice cream, that we would hand dip. And I think at that time I got paid $5.15 an hour, for that job. And there's like not air conditioning in this thing, all right? It was like 150 degrees in there, trying to hustle and get this food, get this stuff, like, and you'd have people that would come up and they'd be like, "I want a freeze pop," and I'll be like, "Okay, it's $1." And they're like, "I got a nickel. What can I get for that?" Well, so in
Some
any
ice.
event, what we had was like a little styrofoam cup by the door, like by like the opening. If somebody wanted to put a nickel or whatever in, it was there. There was no like expected tip. Now it's like they have this technology. What you're discussing is actually like a pre-entered tip screen, where it's assumed that you're giving a tip. And this is like actually there's all these names for it now. We've talked about the new normal after the pandemic. It's a new normal tipping, the tipflation, guilt tipping. These all these like things now that are where we're at with the tipping culture.
I don't see. This is my thing. I don't think that. I think you get a tip. I am I am all for tipping. Don't get me wrong. Do not think I'm not, because I'm in a tipping industry. Like I love tipping, but don't ask me for a tip when you know You know you don't deserve a tip. Not at all.
That actually leads me to something I hadn't thought about till now. So you're using these screens. So you're paying electronically, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
And when you're paying electronically, you, usually the way that my understanding of it is a portion of that doesn't it doesn't all go to the person that you're paying. A portion of it can also go to the organization or the company that's created this tip thing. And I know that because of a salon that I go to. And so like I always pay her cash so that like they don't get any of the tips. And because it's like not exactly, well, I shouldn't say this publicly, but you know, that not exactly considered wage. Um, so I hadn't thought about that till now because I'm assuming this person's just doing their job, and so it's probably standard for them to give you the screen. It's not like, well, we don't do that. That's what her job is, or I'm assuming.
Well, here's how she put it. The thing about it was, I've seen this tip screen before, and I've dealt with that company that she uses for her.
Okay.
I've since moved to another processing company, but I'm familiar with the processing company. And you can indeed, all she had to do was, you can say no tip. Like, you don't have to have tipping. It's elected to put that on the screen. And then just the way she put it, just like she didn't have to say anything. She just could have, I would have seen it, swiped by it, or like she said it like there was this important thing that was
Okay.
about to happen to me. Like, okay, you're going to see two questions on the screen. Like, I'm about to tell you something really important.
Right.
That's the way she put it.
And that important thing is tip me. And how would you like your receipt? Yeah. I still don't. I mean, again, this person is probably an employee and following protocol, but it's expected. Um, let's just talk about this.
It is expected, but
Guilt tipping.
why?
Yeah,
Why?
and I've been reading about this now because this wasn't anything I really thought about until you talked about the topic. So it says that in this article that I'm reading on CNBC, um, tired of guilt tipping, there's a good reason. Businesses are taking advantage of your emotions.
Nope, that's true. That's true. Absolutely true. Honestly, the way that it was put to me was like, this is what you need to do.
Okay.
Now, I'm not falling for that. Y'all, look, y'all know me better than this. If this is not your first podcast, you know better.
Yeah.
But that is the way it is. It was like, this is your assignment.
Your assignment, you're buying some ice cream, you
This
know?
this is your,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I
here's the
mean,
way. I don't know. Here's the way I feel about it. I mean, what do you think? And then I'll tell you what I feel about it.
um, I think that like I don't have to deal with that much because remember I usually don't go to the grocery store or shop for my own
Right?
stuff. Like it's all online, but I use like Instacart. It will say, how much ship do you want to leave to your driver or shopper or whatever, and it will automatically like put it in a bracket for you. Like you can decide to change it up or down. And I always just let it take its automatic thing, which I think is like 15%. Um, and if they're really great, I'll add more on. So I think that like that is something I would tip for. I mean, these people are shopping for my groceries. That's saving me so much time, and they're driving it to me and bringing it to my doorstep. That is something I tip for. But just
Delivery.
like
Delivery is customizable, and delivery is something that we've always tipped delivery people.
right. Here's my thing. Like, okay, I was at the market, so we have this thing here at Central Pennsylvania called the Broad Street Market, and they have this
Hmm.
pop up market now because it actually half of it burned down last summer. I think it was last summer. And so there was a guy in front of me in line, and he got a head of lettuce, and he paid for it with a credit card. Okay, Could you imagine getting ahead of lettuce and like getting like a thing like that, what you just got for a head of lettuce, like expecting a tip? I mean, first of all, I'm like, guy, take out $2. Like, really, you're gonna pay for that with a credit card? But second, what if that was a case where he was getting one of those? How does that work in his head? Now, I will say this place, like I said, it burned down, and a lot of people were out of business for a long time. They built this pop up thing while they're rebuilding the old one, and they have a little donation bin there at the front. If you want to put a donation in, because they all suffered a lot with that. Then in that case, yeah, it's optional, and I want to help them out. That's great. But the assumed tip, especially if you're just getting like a head of lettuce, like I went in and got 2 limes. It was $1. If I had to get one of those machines for a tip, I don't even know. Like I think I would laugh hysterically.
Well, the donation bin, I get that. They've had hardship and you might want to donate, but you're donating to that particular cause. You're
Correct.
not giving money because you picked up a head of lettuce.
Right. But I mean, that's where we're at. And I mean, I think this thing, we should really, I mean, let's talk about this for a minute.
Okay.
This guilt tipping thing, guilt tipping. I mean, do you feel guilty? Like, do you really think that people are playing on emotions here?
I feel actually offended. I
Yeah.
feel offended that you are trying to talk because I recognize it. I feel offended that you are trying to play with my emotions. Like I said, I don't
Right.
play into that, but that means you do it to more than one person. Do you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
didn't just pick me out and like, oh, let's do her. Um, yeah, I'm offended that you would do that. That's like, to me, that's like taking advantage of the little old lady that comes to bring her grandkid to get ice cream.
Right. Right. I agree with you. And I mean, a lot of the headlines I'm seeing, is that it's out of control and consumers are actually pushing back, and tip fatigue is now a word. I thought Zoom fatigue was a phrase, and now it's tip fatigue, and they're starting to tip less. Um, so we're going swing the opposite way because now people are offended, and they've had enough. Gosh, I mean, whew, let's talk
I mean,
about that. Go ahead.
I still think I'm not sour on tipping altogether because I do think the things that are customizable should be tipped
Sure.
for.
Right.
When you go get your hair cut, she doesn't cut everybody the same way. you
Hmm.
know, she frames your face, she does,
Absolutely.
it's very customizable. And because she did such a great job, or he, that's why you tip them because, oh my God, you feel fabulous. You look great. Like that's a
Right.
customizable thing. So don't
Absolutely.
stop tipping people. Everyone, don't stop tipping. This is not what we're saying. Do not stop tipping. Okay? Just saying.
We're going to talk about that tipping philosophy too. We are. But I think the role of the pandemic, of what it's done with tipping. I mean, what do you think? I mean, the pandemic. Do you think that changed our
I think
tipping
it did.
culture?
I think that was more of that donation thing.
Yeah.
That's really what that tipping ended up to be, a
Right.
donation, because there were people we were tipping that we would have not tipped before.
Hmm.
And because they're out and they have to be out because we had to eat,
Hmm.
and
Sure.
we had to eat. So people were at the grocery store. They were bringing possibly this home to their family, that type of thing. So we that was kind of a guilty thing, but we were helping people out because they were doing something for us.
Sure.
So it was more of a donation type of tipping
Yeah.
because they were going through, that's a hardship.
Yes, totally. And I do feel that a lot of people, yeah. I mean, I think about using a waitress as an example. A lot of these places just closed for a while. You do feel guilty and you want to help them, but then where do you draw that line? And I don't think it was ever. Once you've gone there, it's like, oh, you can't go back. You
Oh yes,
know.
yes you can. Yes you can.
uh, it's
Because
there.
now, I
It's
don't
there.
know. The hardship isn't there anymore. At least not now. Like it was. Like most, I think everybody's open now. Everyone, we basically now something people were affected. Now is a time for donation time. Like it's a donation time.
Sure.
Like you talked about the Broad Street Market burning down.
Yeah.
That's a donation tipping, or that's a donation.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you there. So, one thing that I find a little interesting too is thinking about the difference between men and women in tipping, since this is a podcast for women. And so I looked up some statistics, and it says that over half of women, 55% of women, always tip compared to 39% of men. Plus, women are more likely to leave a larger tip at restaurants. So that's interesting. However, this is interesting too. Men are they feel more obligated to tip when presented with one of those tablet screens at checkout.
The guilt tipping gets them. The guilt tipping gets them. But you know what? I also think, though, it depends on who's around them.
Mm. Are they trying to impress someone, or
Mm-hmm.
are they trying not to look bad, or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna run into this person again? I didn't even think
Mm-hmm.
about that, but yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
could be.
That's what I think that men, I mean, how cute is the waitress?
Hmm.
Do you
That
want to
makes
impress her
sense.
a little more? Does she have a little boy? Does she have a little kid?
Well, while we're talking about men and women and tipping, okay, does tipping affect how people perceive you as a woman?
Actually, it does. When again, who's around you? If you're out with your friends, your girls, you're out with your girls,
Yeah.
you tend to leave a bigger tip than you would if you're alone, other than being at a regular place. Like if it's your coffee shop that you go to all the time and Stacy's the one who gives you your coffee, you're going to tip her well because you know her and you guys are kind of buddies, friends, and all
Sure.
that. But you are seen as, because when you do this, you're seen as generous.
Mm.
You're seen as, you've got it together.
Hmm.
You have enough to spread around.
Hmm.
And that's how you're seen then as a woman. Because women are supposed to be, the nurturers.
Hmm.
But now that you're giving more, you're tipping a good amount, then you are seen as, perceived at least, as, oh, having it all together, being okay. And we women, we want to be okay.
Hmm. Yeah, I see. Yeah. I don't actually go out with girlfriends all that much, but I don't know that they're even going to see the bill. So I hadn't thought about that. Like, I don't look at, like, I don't think they're looking over my shoulder, as I'm signing the bill. And if we're doing the whole split the girlfriend thing, it's like everybody just Venmo me, whatever you paid for, but like they don't necessarily know what I tipped.
Well, these days they have these things, again, on the tables. There's little
Oh
kiosks,
yes, I know what you
and
mean.
you can split the bill on those kiosks. So you can see
True.
itemized on who paid what and how much that is. And then they give you the percentage of that. So when you pass it over to the next person, they
Mm.
see what you did.
I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about that. Looking at how much they would be tipping, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I wonder if that would change how I tip because I've not really been in those scenarios. Let's talk about our own personal tipping philosophy for a minute. I know for me, it's usually pretty much a standard 20% or whatever the standard is. And then I go above and beyond, of course, for like the people that, I feel like do a really great job on things. Especially, the hard part is I don't like carrying cash. I don't carry much cash, but when I'm going to the hairdresser or the nail stylist or whatever, I gotta get the cash because I don't want that to be on the card, where they might not get that whole amount, whatever that means, whether Uncle Sam takes it or the boss takes part of it. But I always try to be a good tipper. Even if I get bad service, I still try to like be at least 15%. That's my always been my philosophy. What about you?
Yeah, I don't want to take up like a table. Like if I'm in a restaurant, I don't want to take up a table because that's a table someone else could have been sitting at. So I do want to tip well for that because I know I'm like I said, I know they're not making what they should like in that
Mhm.
type of scenario. Um, so, but other than that, I am a person. This is my philosophy, y'all. This is it. Things that are customizable, things that are customized to you are worth tipping.
Mhm.
What I mean is, I mean the Starbucks person that when you said, okay, honey, yeah, I want a frappuccino, but with oat milk and a half a shot of that, that syrup I like, but not too much. And can you put in a sprinkle of, yeah, that's typical. That
Mhm.
is typical. Um,
Absolutely.
Um, so it's not just the hairdresser, the massage
Right.
therapist, but anyone who does something that really customizes it
Oh yeah.
they're not going to make it the same way for the next person. Like that to me is typical.
I'm with you. Have you ever seen that episode or that scene in when Harry met Sally and she was ordering her meal and it was like so insane. And she was just like, I want this inside of this, but not with that. That's me. I'm a pain in the ass. So I definitely tip well because I'm very picky. So if someone can accommodate my pickiness, like I always want to make sure they get paid for that. You know. Um,
So
yeah.
so
You
is
know,
that also your philosophy?
what? That's if I'm a pain in the ass, I tip even more.
No. About customization.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I always try to be fair in their standard. But if somebody goes above that, I definitely want to make sure that I compensate them for that. I think it should be customizable.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes a difference to me. But other than that, so that's why I don't understand why I get the tipping screen at the bowling alley. The bowling alley. Do you hear me? I'm making an order at a kiosk. I don't even talk to the person.
This is why I don't go anywhere. I get it. Okay, very briefly, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I know it's something that we had talked about previously in my last massage. Um, what's the tipping point? And is there some sense of entitlement here after all of this is said and done?
I don't know if it's entitlement, but it has become an expectation.
Sure.
I feel like. I feel like it's become an expectation. Like it never, things we try to go back to normal. What was,
Mm-hmm.
I should say, not normal, pre pandemic. We try to go back to pre pandemic. Um, like, even though they're not doing any more work, they're still trying to stay here because now money has gone, the price of everything, I should say, has gone up. It has not come back to pre-pandemic, most things anyway, has not come back to pre-pandemic
Sure.
levels. And people are going to hate me for what I'm about to say, but instead of finding a better job or something that will now accommodate what your possible change of lifestyle is, you, for no reason, want the public to pay for your extras.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that either. The fact that they could potentially have a different job. Um, wow, that's a lot to think about, and I think I think that we can't label it across the board because it's not everybody, but I think that there, or every scenario, but I do think that there is a lot more of that expectation. And it's unfortunate because everything is going up in cost. Everything. I couldn't believe it today when I was putting stuff in the Instacart, and I'm like, why is Velveeta shells and cheese like $7? And everything is going up, and I think the expectation is, well, that's okay. We could still accommodate everybody else, but there's only so much money that goes around. Like, there's got
Right.
to be a give and take somewhere here.
Right, because the person doing the tipping has also experienced that inflation.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they're expected then to put out more money, even though the person we're tipping has experienced inflation. So is the person doing the tipping.
Right.
So that doesn't seem to be a consideration in all of this.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out um, over the next probably 24 to 36 months. But it's just very interesting, especially with the housing market. We could go on and on, but we've done a podcast on this. Uh, all right. Well, we are coming to the end of the podcast. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Light Her Project podcast. You can always follow our conversation online using our hashtag. In the meantime, keep it real. Real women.
With real talk.